Okay, so when I seeded my lettuces, I put several seeds, particularly in this butter crunch here, because the seeds were older. I really didn't think they were going to sprout that much. So I'm going to try to see if I can pot these up and salvage as many of these plants as possible. And if not, I'll start snipping them. But yeah, let's see what we can do. I'm using these pots. Got these from a no-buy group. Someone had obviously bought plants with them, and I've been reusing them. They're kind of flimsy, but I'm still able to get a few uses out of them before they're just pretty much toast. And this is my homemade potting mix. It's my compost, coconut coir, and perlite. It's different from the seed starting mix in that I don't sift the compost with a fine mesh, and I'm using perlite instead of vermiculite. The perlite's a little thicker, and so let's see what we can manage. I'm going to do this one here. Let's see. Get the thing out. You can see how it's got the flexible bottoms on these. But yeah, just pop that out. The roots are actually a little bigger than I'd realized for such a short period of time. But let's see what we can do here. So here I'm just trying to tease out the roots very delicately and untangle them. Trying to gently untangle these roots. Probably best practice in this case is to actually just snip the extras and keep the hardiest of them. But I figure if I do this with one of these cubes, we can see how it goes. And let me moisten that for a second. We'll get my stuff. So I'm trying to moisten this. Also, whenever I made this potting soil, I put some granular fertilizer in there as well as bone meal. And when I scooped this out of the big trash can I've got, I went ahead and added some more granular fertilizer and bone meal to it. That's better. All right, let's see if we can salvage this poor lettuce. It's got pretty long roots on it, so I'll make a pretty good size hole, and then try to get in there about where it was in the soil. And there's one. I really like this butter crunch lettuce, which is one reason I'm willing to make this extra effort for it. Yeah. This pot's probably the last time this one's going to get used. Down. But yeah, here we... Now I'll water these all in after I finish getting them all in. just kind of press down and make sure those roots are in there and that the things being kind of held nice and firm. There we are. So I'm pretty excited about this gardening year since I'm going to be taking some gardening classes. A lot of this has been a little bit I could learn from my grandfather before his dementia set in, and what I can learn from others online and reading lots of gardening books. Hello, Goose. But it's going to be nice to take a real class on this. And hopefully I'll have more success. I mean, I had a lot of failures last year, but I still grew over 500 pounds of food in my little garden, which I don't think is anything to really sneeze at. I really have enjoyed growing my own lettuce. It's like one of the first things I tried to grow here. I was part of a community garden where tomatoes and peppers were the first things I grew there. And my grandfather was still alive and I could ask him questions, and I learned a lot from the other people in the community garden. And then when I moved here, the first thing I did is I used one of the bins we used for moving all of our stuff, and I drilled some holes in it and put some potting soil in it and scattered some lettuce seeds, and it was the black seeded Simpson and the Butter Crunch, because that's what I could get in bulk at my local feed store. And at that point you could get a big old scoop of it for $1.75. It was crazy. And I was hooked. I'm not as fond of the black seed Simpson. I did seed some here. Let's see if you can see. I did, but I also did not overseed those plants. I wasn't overly concerned if some of them didn't sprout. But it does make a nice when you're doing a variety of lettuces, that black seed Simpson's a nice little light lettuce to add more texture or more variety of texture to the salad. And that's primarily how I use it. It's not something I normally use on its own. Whereas the Butter Crunch I love on pretty much everything. It's really good on sandwiches and doing like little mini wraps with. Yeah, I think I'm just going to have enough space really to deal with this one cell, and then the rest are just going to have to be thinned by cutting them. But still, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 8. One cell into making 8 plants. It's pretty exciting. And these will probably go out in the garden proper end of the month. Let's still suit 2 little plants on that one. I did another one that still had 2 plants in it, but probably should have filled that a little more. So I'm running out of space here. I'm going to water all of these in, like I said, afterwards. But as well as my classes, I'm pretty excited about having a lot of perennials already established. With the heat we've been having, I have asparagus trying to come in. I'm not going to harvest it this year. It's too soon. I used to have a bed that was several years old, but it got overgrown with grass, and our Bermuda grass is just so aggressive. It was just easier to start a new bed last year. It only has a few plants in it. But yeah, it never fully turned to brown, and now all of a sudden I've got a whole bunch of new shoots, and they're looking pretty vigorous. So by this, next spring, I'll probably be harvesting from that. What I did with my last bed is I kind of harvested fairly lightly the first year, and the first year it really started to produce was during COVID. But I had enough crowns out there then that I could go harvest a couple every morning and make asparagus omelets for me and my daughter, because we were the only ones living here during COVID. And I couldn't just go buy a normal thing of eggs. If y'all remember, we had a bit of an egg shortage. So the only thing when I went to the grocery store to get eggs they had was a big 5 dozen pack. So me and my daughter split a 3-egg omelet every day until that was gone. And the asparagus and the green onions I had in the garden, all of that kind of helped get us through. I didn't have a big garden at that point, but I did have a garden. I had recently left the community garden because I had been struggling financially and really couldn't make the time for that. I'm sure y'all have all had those situations where, well, I guess many of you have had those situations where in your spare time you were having to Uber or DoorDash. I was also doing dog walking and pet sitting to get through that time. And I was grateful that I found a very nice government job 6 months before COVID hit. But yeah, things were still pretty tight at that point, and I was grateful to have my garden and have a little bit of stuff coming in when it was getting so hard to find fresh produce. I'm also glad that I had pretty much already purchased everything for that spring garden before we got sent home in early March. Because, yeah, just trying to get to stores seemed so hard back then. But yeah, that's it. That's my little... I need to wash my hands now, too. That's all from one cell. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 plants from that one cell. I was going to succession plant some of these lettuces, but if I can make room to get the rest of these separated out, I might not bother. So I decided to go ahead and do 2 cells worth of that butter crunch lettuce and put it into these little pots. A couple of them have 2, that one specifically, in there. But just gonna gently water them in, kind of just around the edges of the plants. And considering whenever I harvest lettuce, I harvest like the outer leaves. This is probably enough through spring. We have a pretty short spring here in Texas, although winter hasn't really come yet. Today was a pretty cool morning, enough that I probably don't want to be out in shorts, but the fact that it's January and most days have been perfectly acceptable to go outside in shorts, at least running around in my backyard, is even weird here for North Texas. But yeah, so I'll finish water these in and then I'll go put them under my grow lights. As it's lettuce and they are already sprouted, I don't really need to put them on a heating pad. I think the only things I have on heating pads right now is my the tray that has my peppers and tomatoes in it.